Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. Welcome to the Starseed Ministry. It is May 22nd, 2023, and welcome back. I've been on a bit of a hiatus. Thank you for your patience as I've managed a rough re-entry back into civilization here. So welcome back, everyone. Special shout out to the Starseed Fellowship. We will be meeting on Zoom this week. We've made some changes, and the consensus is that we're going to start meeting on a monthly basis instead of bi-weekly, but keep an eye out for the poll on Subscribestar so we can get that scheduled up for this week. And of course, if you're new here, if you are a new subscriber, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, comment, share. All of those things have an impact on our AI algorithm overlords that determine what is valuable information to share. So I hope everyone's doing well out there. It is Monday. Happy Monday. Of course, if you are in the service industry, then the weekend really isn't your weekend, but either way, I hope everyone is doing really well. I got a couple offerings here up on the screen, and I was really hoping that I'd have some time to actually process what transpired for me personally while I was on my vacation. And it seems pretty clear that it was a pretty hard nope. It's processing, but it's processing with both feet on the ground in motion, right? And I do get the sense that with the sun waking up right now, we'll look a little bit at that solar weather today. The new moon, the Pleiadian new moon, did I not say how that connection to the Pleiades, to the star Algol, I went into all of that stuff as I made the new moon forecast. Did I not say that it's connected to death and tragedy? We're going to go over that too as well today, just to reinforce to all of us how important understanding the cosmological clock really is. And I have a reading to share with you today, as usual, and the awareness of spiritual forces at work. I really feel like that especially when we look at the reading, get an idea of the astrology, especially the astrology leading up to the 27th, which is the first quarter moon. It's also going to be a T-square with Saturn. We're going to look a little bit closely at that. And, I didn't even know what, provoked me to think about it, but I was like, I wonder, because I wasn't brought up in any type of religious format at all. And so I'm learning about these things as I go along now as an adult. And I thought to myself, I wonder when Pentecost is. Well, it just goes to, it happens to be that it's actually at this first quarter moon, and it's actually on the 28th of May, which is the day that the sun and Saturn are square, exactly. And being aware of the spiritual forces at work right now, being aware of your connection to your own creator, God, whoever and whatever that is for you, I feel like is really going to be very necessary in order for that Sun square Saturn not to really just knock the wind out of you. And it's not going to be easy. And I feel like that being a dead horse in some ways, and I hate that phrase, but you know what I mean, is just kind of going over it over and over. How many times can you say the very same thing? But it's going to be an awareness of those spiritual forces at work, even if they seem like they don't make any sense, even if it seems like, oh, I'm not getting what my ego wants, or I'm really uncomfortable right now, or all of this energy I've put into something seems like it's not paying off. It's going to be really important that we have narrowed our focus, we have a laser focus, and that we are very intentional about our goals, and that we're not easily thrown off track just because other things around us are shifting and changing. Because the reality is that we don't actually know what the full plan is from the perspective of the Great Spirit, and our job is to endure and to really trust our relationship with that. And that doesn't always mean that it's going to be easy, that we're going to get what we want, that we're not going to be challenged. Now, there's a lot of energy right now. There's a lot of Mars energy right now, a lot of it. There is, we just got our Mars opposite Pluto transit. The sun is now in Gemini, and I'm kind of giving a precursor to what we're going to go into with the reading today so that we can have the overlay of the astrology on the symbolic and archetypal references that we get with the card reading. But Mars opposite Pluto, now the sun is in Gemini, and we're officially in Gemini season. We have Mars and the sun in a sextile with each other today. Mars and Jupiter will be in a square tomorrow. And so there's a lot of this Mars energy that is swirling around. And of course, Mars now in a fire sign, which is Leo. It is really in a lot more powerful of position in terms of what Mars really represents and what it's acting on, which is our instinct. It is acting on potency and desire, and either ruling Aries or ruling Scorpio. Either way, there is a hunger, there's a desire, there's an instinct, there is action, there is penetration, there is outward momentum. It is either cardinal fire with Aries or it is fixed water with Scorpio. Either way, there's an intensity that goes along with Mars that could really just sweep us all up, and we kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. And I'm not suggesting we shouldn't act. There's a lot of energy that we don't want to waste right now. If we have stuff we're trying to accomplish, if we have projects that really need to be finished, if we need some initiative to start something new, especially Mars square Jupiter, this is the time to do it. But to get caught up in that as the only energy is really going to leave us feeling a little bit left out to dry, so to speak, when that first quarter moon shows up. And we have to balance that. We have to balance that with a sense of trust and cooperation and a willingness to have a sense of innocence and purity of heart. It's not all action all the time. And I think that that's something we're going to have to really face. Now, the new moon, as I talked about with the new moon forecast, the Pleiadian new moon forecast, very much about setting the intention of personal growth and revelation around how we, well, personal revelation around the maturity and perspective, that you don't understand something unless you have taken both viewpoints into account and utilize it, just like you're putting one foot in front of the other and walking down the pathway, right? You could just hop on one foot, but if you have both of them, you need to work in tandem, but they're also in opposition to each other. And whatever that perspective is for each of us individually, we are going to grow, and we are going to learn, and we are going to evolve by having that counterpoint presented to us at the same time. And that could be very difficult for a lot of people. So, and as I said in the forecast, the most basic dichotomy is that of life and death, right? And so we'll go over that a little bit as we go through. I just want to share with you what I am offering right now, just so you're aware. Everything is linked directly in the description box below, how to get to the bookings area for both of these offerings. But the June Solstice seasonal forecast is now available for a 60 or 90-minute reading, looking at the upcoming solstice, June 21st, the sun comes into Cancer, and then looking out into the September equinox. So that's available if you want to get a jump on that. And all of my Starseed readings and the beginner Starseed package are at a 25% discount. It's already discounted on my website. You just go to the links in the description. They'll take you directly to where the booking is. And this is a great opportunity if you've been considering this, especially the package at a discount. You get a natal chart, you get the Starseed reading, and then you get a one-on-one Zoom call with me to tie it all together and answer any questions, go deep into any subject. So anybody that's ever had that package, this would be a good time to share with people how that worked out for you. So I just wanted to let you know that that's available. And if you're interested, everything you need is linked in the description box below. So I just wanted to get past that. I mean, I need to do my due diligence with publicity right now. And of course, if you're on the email list, it'll be going out on how to book these things through the email list. But if you're not on the email list, you can also go to the website and get signed up on the email list. And it's about 2, maybe 3 emails a month. It's really just to let you know what's being offered, especially if you're not on social media or you don't find yourself listening or watching these videos regularly. The email list is a great way to keep in touch and just to know what is being offered on the regular. So let me bring these out of the picture here, and I'm going to check in with the stream and check in with the chat and make sure everything's going well on that front. And Mama Wolf Memory says, I'm about to go outside and get some of that too, that vitamin D, that daily dose of vitamin D. That is a great idea. I think that we could all use a dose of vitamin D and get some sunshine into our lives. It's very nice here up in the northern latitudes, especially where I'm at, that spring is finally coming to full effect, and I think we're safely past our last frost date, so we can get full on into the gardening and farming season, which I'm really very much looking forward to. So let's talk about some space weather, just to get it out of the way. This is a great opportunity to warm up and just to, see that the sun, speaking of the sun and vitamin D, the sun is absolutely waking up right now. So one of the things I noticed looking at the Schumann resonance, if you are paying attention to it and tracking it on a regular basis, it's been really active. Even if you go back, this is only a 3-day window, including today, but you can see the amplification even in the last 3 days over the weekend has been very active. And going back into last week, you're going to see a very similar type of pattern. It's been very active. It's not huge amplifications. In some cases there was amplifications up to 60, but what I do see is consistency, and I see a daily consistency of activity and amplification and excitement in the Schumann resonance. So that's been going on, and it seems to correspond right now, as far as I can tell, with the waking up of the sun. So that's the other thing I'm going to share with you right now is that we do have a coronal hole that is now facing us at this moment, which means within the next day, and we're already starting to get the reverberations of it. You're going to see it in the KP index that there is geomagnetic unrest right now. There has been since yesterday. It's been elevated, but this coronal hole now facing us, and this is pretty sizable. I mean, this is not a small hole, and so we're going to be getting the full brunt of the solar wind here very soon. The other things I wanted to share with you about this are, just like I said, the KP index shows that we are at elevated geomagnetic storm levels from Saturday into Sunday, and it's starting to taper a little bit. But even earlier last week, you can see that there was hardly anything going on, and the geomagnetics was very stable. And then now with the solar wind and the coronal hole facing us, it has been elevated, starting to taper, but I would suspect that we're going to see more amplification in this realm over the next day or so. So just be aware of that. Whenever there is an amplification in solar storm conditions, there's correlation to things like cardiac stuff, psychiatric stuff, and that doesn't mean there's causation. It means there is correlation. So if we are aware of the fact that we are bioelectric beings, that we have a biofield that has been commonly referred to as an aura, that has been treated for thousands of years by a number of different life sciences and Eastern medicinal modalities, acupuncture, and all variety of Ayurvedic medicine, ancient traditional Chinese medicine, all forms of energy work, all forms of cymatic and sound healing. All of those things are treating and addressing our bioelectric field. And if that is responsible for things like cardiac health, our immune system, our endocrine system, all of these systems, psychology, which absolutely 100%, unless you are studying specifically neuropsychology, the entire field of psychology, and I feel like I can speak to this because I have a degree and I have done research, undergraduate research that has been presented and published in psychology. It completely sidesteps this issue entirely. in terms of the bioelectric nature of the human body and our experience. Anyway, if we are bioelectric and the earth is bioelectric and electromagnetic, it stands to reason that when this is disturbed in some way, that we are disturbed in some way. So take good care of yourself when this is happening, right? Make sure you're getting plenty of rest. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Make sure that you are detoxifying yourself as much as you can. Doing the things you know lead to good health and wellness. It's going to help during this time because those possibilities become elevated. And when I say possibilities, heart attack, stroke, psychiatric emergencies, mental health breakdowns, endocrine system disruption is a big deal during this time. I can't tell you how many times that I've experienced that in my own hormonal cycle when there has been big solar activity. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But it has been elevated. Maybe sleep has been an issue for you, but it's starting to taper at this moment. Now, the other thing I want to share with you is it's kind of hard to see here. Maybe it's just me because I have this ring light in my face, but the sun is definitely waking up, and a little bit earlier than I think expected. I think there was a projection that it might be more into July, into August, but if this is an indication that it's just going to get more so, we're in for quite a ride, because even in the last couple of days, there have been significant M-class flares that have been released from the sun. Now, many of them have been impulsive or they haven't been facing us, so the CMEs are not massive heading our way, but it's good to be aware of this because it's probably only going to increase, and it's a matter of time before one of those flares is facing Earth and a CME of big proportion is going to come our way. So be aware of that. You know, if you can pay attention to these things, you can plan accordingly in some ways, and just be that much more aware of how you feel in your body, how you feel in your own emotions and your mental health as well, and you can respond to these things. So it's better to be informed than not, wouldn't you say? So the flaring has also increased. Now, what I want to share with you is something that I discovered just yesterday, but was something that was happening as I was giving the new moon forecast and talking all about Pleiades, how the connection to Algol has a very distinct and very ancient and very consistent connection to tragedy, to death, to grief, to bereavement. What I discovered, and some of you may not know who this is, but I bet most of you do, and you probably already know about this, okay? That, let me see if it'll come up. Oh, it won't come up? Let's see here. Oh, that's funny. There we go. Dr. Rashad Buttar passed away on the 18th, which is the day before the new moon. Okay, and so you can go on to mostly Telegram to kind of find some more information about this. If you really want to get some more information, or you want to link to some videos, and you don't know who Dr. Buttar is, you can drop a comment or in the live chat, and I'll put up a link somewhere. But I have a feeling that many of you know who Dr. Buttar was and is. He was one of the first doctors that publicly came out when the COVID scam started, and was deplatformed almost immediately. And he talked about, over the last, I'd say probably about 6 months or so, he started disclosing that he felt like that he was poisoned and was having all of the symptoms of basically being targeted electrically and electromagnetically. And I actually should just post the link to that video where he's sharing it with a panel. So I'm not here to discuss the details. What I'm sharing with you is that this was dialed in to this new moon conjunct the Pleiades, and as the sun was passing Algol on the 18th directly, this is when he passed away. So to me, personally, my personal opinion, this is some canary in the coal mine shit, okay? Because it's been 4 years since the COVID scam started, and at any point, this individual could have been, I mean, they deplatformed him. You know, he actually had an interview on CNN that I had no idea about, that he had, you know, he was really being challenged. which was really interesting, especially in terms of the vaccine. And one of the things he always talked about, I remember from the very beginning, he said that he that he wasn't anti-vaccine, he was anti-stupidity. And that always stuck to me, just because I think he was attempting to reach a wider audience. He's also one of the individuals that talked about very directly and specifically the connection with the Marburg virus, the 3-point pulse, all of that stuff. So I just think that this is, like I said, this is some canary in the coal mine shit. Okay. And the fact that it was on the 18th as the sun was passing Algol, it's just too much to chalk up to coincidence as far as I'm concerned. So, and he has he described all of the markings, all of the experiences that I personally experienced, that I know for a fact other people that are involved in this channel have directly experienced. And they're all these same symptoms: the cytokine storm, the fact that he was having a stroke, and he never took the vaccine at all. Now, the panel's like talking about shedding, and that's something that I'm not going to get into right now on this channel. But I think it's just too much to ignore and is a harbinger, absolutely, of things to come. And, you know, you can think of this as being black-pilled or not. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just sharing with you the astrology and the things that have happened in relation to those astrological reads. So, rest in peace, Dr. Buttar. You are truly home now with your creator. And that's one of the things he actually talked about in one of the videos, is that, dying was going home to his creator. So, and that's where he is now. So condolences to his family. Absolutely. This is not an easy thing to go through. So, I think it's worth getting right into the reading. I think this is where we're going to see the meat of today's transmission, and showing how difficult things really are shaping up to be right now. And again, one of the things I talked about, if you watch the new moon forecast, you may have, it may be just like a blip across your personal radar, right? That you have been preparing, that you are well aware of what is transpiring, that you have been preparing for this time period, and that it might be very peripheral to you in terms of people's experiences that are more direct. But if that's the case, especially if you do identify as Pleiadian starseed, if you do have those markings, you find yourself being much more of an empath in terms of your gifts and abilities, then this is the time to step up. And we're going to see this in the reading in particular, especially where you can find a sense of groundedness, rootedness, and Venus is in Cancer right now. So there is a strong connection to the value, the meaning, to family, to who's important to you, to what is important to you, where you feel safe and secure, and really demonstrating whatever it is that is your gift and talent and ability, demonstrating it, teaching it, getting out there and showing people what it is that you can do in terms of support and helping them. Because Cancer is all about the personal life, the home and family, and where we feel safe to grow and safe to be emotionally vulnerable. And it is the womb, it is the container that holds the vulnerability. And Venus is about what is valuable to us, what has real meaning and warmth in our lives, and harmony and beauty, and has a lot to do with relationships. So all the Mars energy out there, you can feel it. It's on the surface. There's a lot of it now in Leo, right? And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't engage that energy, but we're going to have to balance it out as well with being mindful of that space that Mars had just spent all those weeks going through, really setting the tone and the stage of protection and creating protective mechanisms in our lives. So knowing where Cancer is in your chart is probably going to give a good indication of like, okay, these are the areas that Mars has been going through and setting up these protective mechanisms, getting, for me, for instance, right, as an Aquarius rising person, right, Cancer is your 6th house. And so this is especially for the Aquarius people, because Pluto is in Aquarius. Mars is opposite of that, now coming into the 7th, for instance. You have to be aware of the personal work and the service and the works and labors and the purification, the dedication, the discipline in terms of your own vessel, whatever that is, right? Your own self-care, your healing, your protection of yourself is a big part of that sixth house too, because you have to engage some sort of energetic, bioelectric hygiene and protection. And your biofield is your protective mechanism. And so Mars now is taking that energy and moving forward with it to stimulate the heart chakra, right? Leo is the fifth house. It is ruled by the sun, and it is the heart chakra in a lot of ways. And so in terms of the pumping of it, so the pumping of the blood, the heart actually pumping, creating this field. So knowing where you're putting this energy is really important, because you got to stay focused. You got to stay intentional about your goals. It's going to be really easy to get pulled off track, get pulled into pessimism, get pulled into disappointment, feel like that you don't have any control over, or really questioning, why would God do this to me, right? There's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that, and there's already that. I feel like the new moon already kicked it off in a lot of ways. So let's start looking at the reading itself. So, and keep in mind that all of those things I just talked about astrologically, I want you to consider them as we go through this reading, okay? So a couple comments before we move on. Mama Wolf Memory says, my butt got kicked this weekend, but again, learning and still moving forward. That's great. That's exactly the mentality I think that we need, because there are going to be more challenges. There are going to be more kicks in the butt, right? There are going to be situations that if we knew they were coming, they would not actually have provided the transformational energy. How many people on the 9th of May with the Sun-Uranus conjunction got their butt kicked in a different way, right? How many people experienced something that was shocking and unpleasant, or shocking and turned your world upside down, right? How many people had something happen that they didn't anticipate, but because of that, it really opened and awakened them into a whole new realm that they didn't even know they were beginning to address. A lot of people, I know for me personally what happened with me on the 9th. I know lots of personal stories. People have messaged me or have shared with me what had gone on for them around that time. And I am sure most people, again, if it's peripheral or direct, it's something happened that touched everyone in that way. And if you expected it, then it wouldn't be unexpected. And Uranus functions in the chart and in the astrology as this unexpected type of event that triggers your awakening. Uranus is the higher mind. And oftentimes, in order to open that third eye, there has to be the conflagration, right? There has to be the spurring of your vital energies that are mobilized by something, ambition, or a spontaneous opening, right? But if it's not always going to be controlled. And when you have the Sun and Uranus come together, it really stimulates that awakening. So I know that was, well over a week ago, but it is still reverberating. And now we have the Sun in Gemini. It's going to sextile Mars today, and we're coming up on that first quarter moon that's going to be in a T-square with Saturn right around the time of Pentecost, right? And so I encourage you, if you're not familiar with Pentecost, if you weren't brought up in religious like me, right, you do some research, find out what it really means, because it's going to be the descent of the Holy Spirit, the catalyzing fire of the 9th house of Sagittarius in a lot of ways, that comes into the picture and transmutes the raw power of 8th house Scorpio energy, which is ruled by Mars, which is ruled by Pluto. It's going to take that opposition from these two factors, and it's going to catalyze it. It's going to transmute it into purpose. And without that perspective, and keeping your eye on the prize here, whatever that is for you, it's going to be very easy to get pulled into the maelstrom of, oh my God. So, Knight of Swords is where it all starts, okay? Here's our Knight of Swords, right? The fire of air. So let's look at our notes here. So this is the storm of the mind, flaming high. So we have the sun now in Gemini. We have it in a sextile to Mars in Leo. So Mars has definitely got that night energy. And now it's in Leo, so it's got the fire backing it as well. And then you have the connection to Gemini, which is the mind. So this individual, and truly as a court card, we are talking about an individual. This is probably us. Now remember, it is in the position of, the causal factor. And I feel like this is leading us right now into what to expect. And so an excellent warrior in logic, analytical, clever, courageous, right? A skillful trickster. Ooh, we talked about that too, right? We talked about that, how there is this trickster energy that can, especially with Uranus involved. And there will be another Uranus transit this week. In fact, Venus will be in a sextile to Uranus by the end of the week. So there's more Uranus transits coming that have to do with Venus in Cancer. So, but this is a skillful trickster. It brings in swift and bright energy that does what? It clears our heads. It clears obstacles from our path. There were obstacles there that we didn't even know were obstacles until that Sun-Uranus conjunction happened. And it was like, oh, damn, I suspected that, or I had no idea that was even going to happen. It clears our heads, clears the obstacles away from our path. And intuition plays a really strong role with the Knight of Swords, because there is thought and there's analysis and there's cleverness and there's logic and all of these things, but there has to be this connection to our own intuition and our higher mind, which is Sagittarius, which is fire, which is that transmutative, catalyzing type of fire. So intuition does play a strong role in terms of how we act on this information. There's a lot of drive to succeed with the Knight of Swords, and I get this Mars energy with the sextile to Sun and even the square to Jupiter, which is the ruler of Sagittarius. There's a drive to succeed with this energy, and it's not as if it's a bad thing. We have to be very focused on where are the problems that we want to find resolution to, because there's going to be so much more of an overlay of disappointment and pessimism with the Sun square Saturn coming up that is going to be very difficult. So this energy coming into the moment has all this trickster energy, this bright energy that clears our path, clears our heads, has ambition and a drive to succeed. And the Sun sextile Mars is a huge energy around these types of dynamics, right? Drive to succeed, ambitious, being very charismatic, and then also the Mars square Jupiter gives initiative and energy to take risks and to achieve large-scale success. But you have to be very strategic. And that's the other thing about the Knight of Swords. It's not, there is ambition and a drive to succeed, but it's clever. It's analytical. He's got the swords out. He's got the wings that are kind of like a helicopter, set of helicopter blades, and he's bearing down on the horse. There's motion and movement, and there's birds in the foreground here, suggesting that there is spiritual energy that's going along with this. So this is the causal factor coming into the moment, okay? And then we have our next card, which is the Sun, but it's reversed. Good old Sun, number 19, right? The Sun, the ruler of Leo, the ruler of the 5th house, our heart fire, okay? And the Sun is always a good card. Now, when it's reversed, not all that glitters is gold. Promising much but doing nothing. That's another energy of the Sun reversed. Struggling to see the bright side of things. You may experience setbacks that damage your enthusiasm. This is that Sun square Saturn all day long. Leads you to question whether you can achieve what you set out to do. Now, this is the heart of the matter, right? This is a real struggle to have the sun reversed right at the heart of the matter. You may feel depressed or left out, or no longer enjoying what you are doing. Maybe it has lost all of its dazzle, actually, and you're like, wow, this is going nowhere. Direction may be distorted or clouded, right? So the sun reversed could be a cloudy day. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep pushing forward or attempting to fulfill what it is we're setting out to do. The sun in astrology is our archetypal self. It is the person that we are when we're fully expressing our heart's desire. When our creative expression is out for the world to see, that is the sun. So it's joy, it's optimism, it's play. There's children all around it. It's the center of our solar system, right? Just like the heart is the center of our bioelectric system. But in its reversal, this really suggests that there's going to be a struggle at the heart of things to see the bright side. There may be setbacks that damage your enthusiasm, like I said, lead you to question whether you can even achieve what you set out to do. And there may be some serious depression. So I feel like that this reading is not so much a snapshot of right this moment, but is soon going to get to this point. And of course, the first quarter moon squares the sun. And I get this sense too with the sun being reversed. So this is something to pay attention to in terms of our very near future. And the causal factor here is kind of this Mars energy that's just like, going forward, is very swiftly attempting to succeed and use all of our cleverness and this trickster energy in order to get to this point. But if we rely strictly on the Mars energy, I think that it's going to be very difficult to pull ourselves out of whatever this depression or loss of enthusiasm really is as we are facing our challenges, right? And maybe those types of experiences are kind of like that separating the wheat from the chaff moment, that when the challenges are taken up the next notch, so much is revealed about where people actually stand. And I think, again, May 9th was a big part of that, right? Showed us where we do stand, how far we've come, where the challenges are. Things that had been clouded from our own vision because we're too close to it were revealed in that Sun square Uranus, or Sun conjunct Uranus. And it may feel like this, like, oh man, I thought I was so much further along, or whatever, right? Or you may have realized, wow, I saw things that I didn't want to see, and I kind of doubted it, but here we are. So one of the things, well, without going into the specifics of what I dreamt about, it really did lay out that Mars-Venus separation, that a lot of people are going to find themselves in the Mars camps exclusively, right? And that it's important to balance it out with the Venusian embodied value and meaning and a sense of how we feel in terms of those things, because that's going to also give us a lot of information. So there's our sun reversed. Now, here is our energetic root, right? So if the horizontal is our cause and effect linear outside experience, the vertical axes in this reading and in the astrology chart is the axis of our power, our own power. And so the Eight of Keys, the master artisan, what is this person doing? He's training his apprentices, right? And he's dropping all of these gems into the hand of one of his apprentices. The Eight of Keys, now the keys in the Akashic Tarot, as many of you know, since I've been using this deck for a long time, are about the discs, the pentacles, the nuts and bolts, the physical manifestation. So the Eight of Keys represents us as this master artisan, and this is where our power is drawn from, the opportunity to offer our talents, our purposes, and our gifts to the world. Remember, Pleiadian Starseed people, as an empath, this is your time to step forward and be that counselor, be that empath, bring your healing gifts to the world. That's one of the things I talked about. The people that have these markings in their chart tend to be very good healers in terms of body work and energy work and things like that. You may find yourself teaching or training your skill set to others. That's the next level of the master artisan. Not only are you providing your gifts to the world, but you're teaching other people and training them in their own way. So you also may be demonstrating your gifts, performing them publicly. You can build your reputation, take advantage of opportunities. This is where the energetic root is going to be the most powerful for us right now, is in this master artisan. We have come so far already, and we have these incredible abilities inherent in just being, right? It's not something that some people have more than others. We all have the capacity for empathy, for precognition, for telepathy, for healing, right? For healing touch. That is not something that is only designated to certain people, right? Everybody has the capacity to engage in healing touch and energy work. This is why there is no prerequisite for being attuned to Reiki. Right? It's just a matter of saying, yes, I want to be attuned to Reiki. And you know what that is? It's really, really simple. I'm going to take all the mystery out of it, which I think some people, they make their entire living off of this, but I'm going to explain it to you really simply. When you're attuned to Reiki, all that is happening is that the person attuning you is one tuning fork and you're the other one. You are attenuated to the vibration of the Reiki master and their vibration, right? You're attenuated to their vibration as if they are a tuning fork and you are a tuning fork. You become attenuated. That's it. It's really not that, mysterious and, outside of the realm of, access. Anybody can be attuned to Reiki. Anybody, right? And so it's just a matter of acknowledging and just shift your perspective just a little bit. And when you realize that's all it is, you're like, oh. And when you become attenuated to the vibration of the Reiki master as your own, then you do the same thing for other people, which is basically the essence of what Catalyst Energies is all about. A catalyst is some sort of substance that initiates a chemical reaction without itself being diminished in its own energy, right? So you catalyze someone else's awakening or healing, and then they do the same thing and do the same thing. And then you have this whole chain reaction that starts moving that can't be stopped. That's the whole point. Anyway, master artisan, that's where the root of our power is that we have gotten to this point, and now we need to step out and showcase it, demonstrate it, train other people, whatever it is, and have the confidence that we are the master artisan. That's a big part of this as well, as very physical resources, okay? So, now this is very interesting. Now, number 5 in the Akashic Tarot is Ascended Master Hilarion. So there's 2 roles that Hilarion actually plays that I recently discovered because I actually got out and I was like, I'm just going to do some research here. Now, Hilarion, in terms of theosophy, right, the New Age, the 7 rays, all of that stuff. Hilarion is an ascended master that is about research and science and concrete knowledge. You can see this individual, in fact, is in his lab, right? He's got a little beaker and an abacus and all this stuff, and he's reading, and he's also surrounded by the silhouettes of other people that have passed on, right? That they are ancestors or they are themselves guides. Whatever they are, they're also present. But he's in his lab, he's reading, he's focusing. And so in theosophical philosophy, Hilarion is an ascended master that is the ruler of the 5th ray. That's why it is labeled as 5 in this Akashic Tarot. But if you look further into Hilarion, he actually also was a Catholic saint and a Christian mystic. And he is known actually as the He's known as the founder of monasticism in Palestine. And so he lived in the desert in Syria. He ended up going to the island of Cyprus, which is where he died. This is 3rd to 4th century AD. He is considered a Catholic saint, and something called an anchorite. Like anchor, like a boat anchor, an anchorite, someone who withdraws from society to lead an intense ascetic life. And this is one of the earliest forms of Christian mysticism. This is kind of like the sadhus in Hinduism. And he is considered one of these anchorites. And so he led an incredibly monastic life, and was like very intensely anchored into the desert in Syria and Palestine. And like I said, he's celebrated as the founder of monasticism in Palestine. So it's kind of a hermit in some ways, and I think that that's something to consider as we look at the rest of the reading. It's kind of a hermit, but an anchorite is a little different, because you actually are not a hermit so much as you do basically give up secular life for this intensely Christian or this intensely monastic life, but it's usually that you are situated in a very specific location that is somehow tied to a church or some other structure. So I encourage you to do the research about Hilarion and see what really sticks out for you, because that's going to have the most influence, right? So, but there's something about him not only being, and he healed, right? He was a saint because he performed miracles, and he was able to heal people as well. So that's something that is worth considering, especially as we look at here now the last card, the outcome effect, right? Which is the 5 of discs. Now, in the Thoth Tarot, it is considered to be the basis of worry, and it's connected to Mercury in Taurus, which is where Mercury is right now. It's in the first decan of Taurus, and this card often represents the worry about a material crisis, the anxiety about a material crisis. But you also notice that it is reversed. So although it represents a material crisis, you can see that the pentacle is actually in the right it's in the right direction, right? With the 5th part of the star pointing up. And I think that's also worth noting. So number 5 also represents and is related to the planet of Mars, right? So we've been talking about Mars and Mars and Mars and Mars and Mars, and then you have these 2 5s and connected to material asceticism or material crisis. And what's one way to abate all of the anxiety about a material crisis? Where you push it all away, right? You actually live a life that is so minimal in your materiality that there is nothing to worry about, because you have actually renounced just about all of it. And Hilarion, definitely, he renounced all of it. He never, changed his clothes unless they literally fell off of him. He was incredibly ascetic and hardly ate anything. Like, he was fully embracing this particular lifestyle. So am I saying that we should be, doing that? No, but there's something about this that really strikes me, that it's more about the anxiety rather than the crisis itself, and our ability to get along in hard times. And even as we become aware of and really act on these obstacles cleared away, this sense of cleverness and courage with the Knight of Swords, we acting in this way, and then we kind of come face to face the heart of the matter, where we're feeling pessimism and our enthusiasm is being influenced, and we're just like, wait, why am I doing all of this? It doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere. Whatever it is for you, when we have this axis of power that is rooted in our power as an artisan and a master, that is also then released in terms of our conscious awareness, released into a larger contribution through a sense of, maybe we are pushing away those things. Maybe we are finding a place where we can put more effort onto research and concrete knowledge. But I'm really being drawn more to the Christian mysticism Hilarion than I am the Theosophical Hilarion in this particular reading. And part of that is because I felt so compelled to look it up, and I'm like, oh, he's a Catholic saint and he lived in the desert. And boy, he really didn't have anything. He really embraced that particular track in life. And then we find ourselves, even as we are questioning our trajectory, even if we're feeling a lack of enthusiasm, even if our vision is clouded, there's something about this 5 of discs being reversed, suggesting that we're still contained and almost protected when we acknowledge where our power comes from, and that we also are able to let go of all of the other extraneous things and be able to focus on what's right in front of us and focus on our goals and intentions, right? And so if our goals or intentions are, based purely in the physical, it's going to be difficult. But this also suggests to me that instead of worry, that we're going to actually manage to get along in very difficult times, because we're kind of embracing this sense of asceticism, or at the very least embracing a lifestyle that is so much more focused on our spiritual aspect and our connection to God, as opposed to fulfilling all of our carnal or material desires. So now, a lot of times the 5 of discs reversed is even worse, right? There's a material crisis that we should be worried about. But I also do feel like that there's something about the pentacle being upright in this particular card that's like, you know what? It's really about perspective, right? So we can sit here and worry and worry and worry, or we can actually embrace the tightening of the belt in some ways, and that may actually allow us to make the most of our resources that we do have with Mercury and Taurus, rather than worrying about what we don't have, right? And what do we have? We have mastery. That's what we have. We have mastery over how many years, how many decades, consistent focus and study and practice. It's really going to lead us to a place where we're not worried, but we're actually mastering the world around us. So we see the cheetah involved here down with the master artisan. It says, get clear in your intentions, stay focused, move quickly to achieve your goal. That has a lot to do with this Knight of Swords, has a lot to do with all this Mars energy, right? There is a swiftness here that we can take advantage of. And the thing that's really stuck to me about this is consulting the bones. We need discernment. We need to keep an open mind, and we need to notice the things when they are presented to us. And if we're not paying attention, if we're caught up in worry, we're caught up in anxiety, we are caught up in all of the other trappings that are here to specifically distract us and keep us locked into the feedback loop of the news cycle and even alternative news, right? Then we're not using our discernment to actually pay attention and be ready to act when the time it comes, right? There's going to be opportunity to act, and it'll be presented to us, I feel like. But if we don't take advantage of that opportunity, we're just sitting around waiting, or thinking it's just going to fall into our lap. This is where our enthusiasm starts to wane, and we start to have a sense of, what am I doing, right? Or can I actually achieve what I've been attempting to achieve? Absolutely, right? But this is one of those times where we have to stay focused and eye on the prize here and consult our intuition and have really clear discernment, because there's a lot that's going to keep us distracted. Now, again, with Hilarion, the cloaked vagabond, again, coming with the traveler, the mystery, the wanderer, the anchorite, the hermit. It might be that we have to, there's this trickster energy, especially when you talk about wanderer and travel and mystery. Maybe this person comes into your life that you're just like, damn, they just seem like a crazy old person or whatever, right? I'm just giving an example. And then you realize that God is standing right in front of you, right? So, and the other thing too is that those Uranus transits have a lot of mystery attached to them as well. Now, where we end here with this reading is the Wolverine. You're a lot tougher than you think. The Wolverine is able to withstand the bite of poisonous snakes because of how tough its skin and hide is. It has these incredible claws that are, retract and come back out, just like the X-Men character. And a Wolverine will chase off a lion, right? They'll chase off predatory cats off of their kill because they're just so scrappy and tough, and they really are scavengers, but they're a lot tougher than they look. They really are. And that says to me that even if you kind of have to tighten the belt, even if things come up that really challenge you, you're a lot tougher than you think you are. And to remember that, and to remember your mastery and what you're here to do, right? What is that 10th house for you, right? Where is that power really truly meant to be released? Are you here to contribute to, the divine kingdom here on earth? Or are you here to just keep fulfilling your own desires? And I'm not saying desire is bad. I'm just saying if the ego is still completely attached to that, then that's what you're going to be feeding. And that's something that I can't do anything for you. That's something you're going to have to figure out for yourself. But what this suggests to me is for those of us who really are committed to this process, that there's going to be challenges, but we are a lot tougher than we think we are. And to, again, keep our goals focused, right? And in front of us and intentional. And we will know when to act when the time is, Wolverine's not going out there expending all of its energy. It is scavenging. It is on the hunt and looking for opportunities in order to get its meal, right? And so in the meantime, what is it that you can be researching? What is it that you can be doing to strengthen your bond between you and the Great Spirit? All of the things that Hilarion, the Saint Hilarion, was doing in terms of his monastic life. So I'm not saying you need to be a monk. I'm not saying that we all need to do that. I'm just saying that this is representing something that may be more of an asset than we realize moving forward. So that's our reading for today. And I'd love to just take a real brief look here at the astrology going into the week, especially because of that gnarly first quarter moon that's really a T-square with Saturn. Whew, boy. Let me bring up the chart here of today. And I'm going to check in with the stream here too and see how people are doing. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to add to what I am presenting at this point, just to show that we're all on the same page, hopefully. Let's see here. There we go. There we go. Oh, there's our tinfoil hatter. Ever feel pessimistic? Not me, no way. Time for about 20 some years of research. Great idea. Let's see here. I'm here to remember something, I guess. Oops, but, well, no hurry, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, all in good timing, right? It really is all in good timing. So just keep that in mind as well, is that you don't have to force the issue. Stay strong, eat hearty. It got agua? Yeah, definitely. You definitely want to do that as well. So, ever meet a low-key Loki? Oh, that's funny. That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever met a low-key Loki, actually. That is a really, really good question. And I'm glad you found the stream as well. Welcome, and thanks for being here, Hatter. Really appreciate your insight and your communication and your participation. So, I've never met a low-key Loki, right? You don't know they are low-key. You don't know that they're Loki. You don't realize they're Loki until after they've struck, right? That's kind of the thing, again, with that Sun-Uranus conjunction. It's usually after the fact where you're like, oh shit, I just got punked, right? But what I have found in my own personal experience, and, feel free to contradict me if you're like, no, that's not how it happened for me, is that you get punked and then you kind of sit on it for a minute and you realize, whoa, there was a red flag. Oh, I totally ignored my intuition there. There were all these signs that were showing themselves. And had you consulted the bones in the first place and trusted your own intuition, you may have seen everything. But you may not have learned how much that you can trust your own intuition until you got punked for some reason. So that's the other thing, is Loki usually, he's not low-key, but you usually don't recognize that it's Loki until after it's struck. So it's just an idea. But yeah, I've never met a low-key Loki either. It's usually just like, damn, I just got punked. And that sucks, right? Sometimes, especially if you're a person that's just like, I just want it to be quiet. I don't want any surprises. It's kind of that Radiohead song from OK Computer, right? No surprises. You just want to be chill. You don't want any surprises. You could get used to that type of life. And, that usually happens the more you strip away all of the extraneous stuff. When it's just you and God and the very basics of what you need, there aren't a lot of surprises anymore because there isn't the influence to come in and shake things up as much. Not saying that it won't happen, but there's going to be a lot of shakeups, guys, and it's going to be forcing people to literally tighten the belt financially and to rein it in terms of where your energy is going and who you want to be giving your energy to, right? If you're this master artisan, you can't be wasting your energy on people that are just like that they're not interested, they're not capable, they don't want to actually learn, they just want to they're just tugging on you and the tendrils are just everywhere, right? You got to know who those people are and cut them out, right? You got to know who those people are and bless them and move on and do what you need to do in order to stay focused, stay intentional, and achieve your own goals, right? This is not about pushing everybody out of your life, but there are people that are surrounding all of us that have no interest really in what's going on or being a positive influence on the betterment of humanity. They're just here to start shit. And yes, it's all allowed by God, no matter what. And so that really helps at the end of the day to be like, there is something here that has been allowed to transpire for some reason. And there's always a learning experience. There's always an opportunity to learn. So keep that in mind as well. So here is our chart for this week. So, of course, for the Starseed Fellowship, you will get your full weekly astrology report this week where we go into way more detail about the transit of the moon and the very specifics. And I talk a lot more directly and frankly, right, on our private forecast that's only for membership. But it's important to get an idea of what to expect this week. So like I said, Sun, sextile, Mars, both in the second degree of their signs. You can also see that Mars is still, I would say, in an opposition to Pluto. So that intensity is still very much here. And the moon is in Cancer. So the moon is at home right now as well. So the feels are very sensitive. They're very deep. There's a lot of intuition when you have something like the moon in its home sign of Cancer. And she is going to meet Venus this week. And so very soon, and then come into a square with Chiron. That's absolutely going to be happening this week as well. Chiron over here in Aries, that is like, are you able to transcend the strife in one perspective, right? Can you have one part of yourself be on the magic carpet that transcends the direct relationship with all of the strife, but not be so detached that you can't, be functional, right? And especially in terms of Chiron, there's no getting out of the ways that Chiron has attempted to heal from his own suffering by being a healer for others, right? And we don't necessarily want to push that part of ourselves away because there's a strong superpower here with Chiron. But at the same time, in order to heal from our own suffering, we really have to find that transcendent perspective in our own potency, our desire, and in just ourselves, right? Our own sense of I am needs to have a perch in some ways to come up on in order to be like, oh, I see the whole picture here, and like I'm not going to get totally involved in that. But you also want to be involved enough as that master artisan that is able to actually assist people, is actually to help overcome crisis through your own expression of compassion, right? And that's what Chiron did. And at the end of the day, Chiron's hybridization didn't save him, but The idea is that he figured it out and was like, oh, I see. I need to let go of all of this in order to actually heal. So maybe we're a little bit too involved right now. Maybe we're not involved enough. And I think that's going to come out with the Venus square Chiron issue, right? The people that are just like, I'm going to keep putting my head in the sand and pretend everything's okay. And then we're just going to keep going on with life as usual. That is not happening. And we know that. Right? But the people around you are going to start figuring that out if they've been like, oh, I'm just, it's just what it is, right? We're just going to go back to reality, even though deep down they know that something is very, very wrong. We know what is happening to a certain extent. I mean, obviously we don't have all of the details, but we're here to basically, as I've said many, many times, we are here as, with the designation of Starseed. It's not about your galactic origins. It's about the responsibility of being here now in this lifetime with these abilities in your chart that are like, here, this is your unique role in this whole mess, and it's your responsibility to fulfill this, right? That's why we're here, not to get caught up in our galactic origins, if they exist or not to get caught up in the fact that we're somehow the black sheep in the family. Yeah, we're all that, welcome to the club. But I think that this Venus square Chiron this week is going to bring out, who has been keeping their head in the sand and not getting involved enough. And also, too, how we're getting hyper involved to the point where we're neglecting ourselves and neglecting what we need to do to take care of ourselves. And the moon meeting Venus, I think, is going to be one of those moments of just becoming hypersensitive in that moment to, this is what I have to release in order for the seed to grow, right? The seed has to fall away in order for the plant to grow. And the seed is our ego. So we're going to either have to let go of that ego and understand the bigger picture of what our growth is meant to be, or people are going to really struggle emotionally with the letting go of that seed because they think that that's them, right? And it's already starting, right? It's already been starting, and it's going to be the first quarter moon, I think, and the T-square with Saturn that's going to really bring it up big time. So the other things, like I said, that are happening this week, Mars and Jupiter come into square. This is whenever these two are in intense, they are in a tense aspect. It's actually a good thing, because what you find is that they actually work with each other when they are keeping each other in check, as opposed to when they come together. So the best way to harness this impulsive energy of Mars square Jupiter is to use forethought and strategy, right? Avoid acting rashly without considering the consequences. Now, the Knight of Swords, at the very least, has the mental acuity to consider the strategy and the consequences, so that we are not acting rashly without considering them, and that we can use this energy to actually get something done or take a creative risk, right? It gives us courage to take on our adversaries if we're feeling threatened. But I wouldn't go on the attack with something like this. It's not going to go well. And in fact, it has the potential to spread in a way that could be really detrimental to other people. It's not a time to go on the attack especially without provocation. Otherwise, there may be loss of face, there could be accidents, there could be injuries. Choose your fights carefully if you are going to get into that battle mode. Although you're going to feel enthusiastic with the Mars square Jupiter and really pumped up, you'll need to moderate your energy so you don't So you don't burn out. You don't want to burn out. So that's something to consider too as we move through the week. Now the moon, like I said, and you see that tomorrow as well. This is when the moon and Venus will be in a conjunction, and then we come into our crescent moon phase as of this week, which is when we're really starting to the structures that need to be either built or broken down from the new moon impulse. They're going to start presenting themselves. You're going to start becoming aware of like, okay, what do I need to build? What do I need to get out of the way in order to fully realize eventually the full moon? But even leading up to the first quarter moon, which is our crisis in action of like, oh gosh, what do I do? That's what do I do, right? I think there's going to be a big spanking here, and that we're going to be like, oh, what do I do? And the the best thing that we can do, I think, in that moment is to keep our eyes on our Creator, on our spiritual life, not lose focus of what we came here to do to begin with, and not be dissuaded or deterred by challenges along the way, especially a Sun square Saturn. It is not an easy type of transit, especially Saturn in Pisces, right? Which really can be very depressing, very, very depressing for people, because you're going to feel like you're an island unto yourself out there in the middle of nothing. And the only thing is your connection to your God, right? Your connection to Source, to the Great Spirit, your immortal soul, and having complete trust and faith and surrender in it. So, because otherwise, if you're relying on the material aspects to fulfill this idea that everything's going according to plan, it's going to be difficult. It really is. And for those of you who had readings around, either the eclipse reading or you had readings leading up to this time from the equinox, I talked about this Sun square Saturn. It's going to be very difficult, especially if you're like, I'm going to make this thing happen. And it's like, well, what is that thing? And are you sure that your plan is better than God's? I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out, or it's going to be put right into your face. So, some people. Wow. What else is happening? Like I said, the Venus is going to square Chiron, and that's what I talked about too. Either people are going to realize that they need to get involved, or they are way too involved in their ego. And then the Venus is going to sextile Uranus. This is going to be a good moment, I feel like. It's going to stimulate some need for excitement. It's going to stimulate some shakeups and changes. But in that process, you're going to realize, what is it that really leads you to feeling happy? And it will also provide opportunity to be like, oh, I see the messages in the sky. I see the spiritual forces at work, because you're going to feel that sense of those overtones of happiness in terms of projects and relationships and family and the people that really matter to you, and where you feel truly at home with Venus in Cancer. That maternal instinct. It's going to wake some people up, or that's going to be the reinforcement of the spiritual forces at work. You're going to become aware of them because you're going to feel it in you, right? It's not going to come from outside of you. It's going to come from an experience of true overtones of happiness, okay? And maybe it'll be kind of like, whoa, or something comes up, chance encounters, some sort of crazy event that happens, but it's going to reinforce those spiritual forces at work, which is where Uranus is right now. And again, there's that trickster energy. It doesn't always have to be bad, right? It doesn't always have to be bad, but it usually is something that we don't account for. And as humans, we really don't like that. Some people function pretty good in that way. And I guess if you're a Uranian ruled person like an Aquarius, it might not be too terrible. So, and this is Thursday into Friday. The moon is going to be in Leo, like I said. And coming into the weekend, here's the 27th. Here is our first quarter square, right? So the moon will be conjunct Draco exactly when it's squaring the sun. Oof. That is going to be something else. So this is a mutable T-square. You have the opposition with Saturn in Pisces. That's going to be really difficult. You have this T-square with the moon conjunct Draco in a square to the Gemini sun. And then what we always look at with a T-square? We look at the ghost point, which is 6 to 7 degrees. What? Sagittarius. Didn't I just talk about all that Sagittarian energy, transmutation, catalyzing type of reaction where the raw power of the 8th house is brought into sincere purpose and meaning and spiritual fire. We got to stay focused on what? The Pentecostal fire, right? The Holy Spirit that comes in. And that's what Pentecost is all about. It descends upon us. And this is the ghost point of this T-square. So again, there's going to be all kinds of challenges about being able to trust in life. What do I need to do? being able to emotionally handle the emptiness of waiting. That is a big part of this moon in Virgo, that during Virgo season, it seems like nothing's happening. And that's because under the surface, all of the root system is drawing all of the minerals, the hormonal structure of the plant is changing. And you're like, well, is there going to be fruit or not? It's coming. And that's what this degree of Draco is all about, is that patience, and that ability to be patient with what is coming to fruition. But it is definitely going to trigger a lot of the Draco Starseed people who are not in alignment with their connection to their creator, whoever that is for you. They're going to find themselves really attempting to fulfill themselves with themselves, if you know what I mean, right? The Draco energy is wanting to live forever, right? This is where the transhumanism really starts, is this Draco starseed marking, and just goes from there. But there's an incredible amount of wisdom and healing energy in the serpent, and in the dragon that is remarkable. In the people that I work with that have, it is across the board. It is famous people in the mystery schools, and famous people like Rudolf Steiner has very significant Draco Starseed connection. And all of the people I work with who have Draco Starseed markings, it is incredible wisdom, incredible healing potential, and also a really strong potential for that to be basically exploited in a lot of ways, because of the desire to not, your service, your works, and your labors are not it's not for the fulfillment of the fruit for the harvest. It's meant to, the downside to it, the flip side to it, where it goes sideways basically is when you are attempting to bring yourself to fruition for the sake of yourself, right? So it's going to be really, really hard for people who are not already in alignment with the Holy Spirit and waiting and creating a space, right? Creating a space in order for the Holy Spirit, whatever that means to you, to enter your life. And that has a lot to do with this ghost point in Sagittarius, the stirring of the heart of something that is a profound love and meaning and purpose coming into our lives, and then being able to act on it. That's going to be something that I think that happens after this first quarter moon, because a first quarter moon is an actional crisis. What do I do? And then through the course of that part of the lunar cycle, you start to take action. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. And you start to destroy the obstacles that are going to impede your ability to receive the full revelation of the full moon, which, by the way, is going to be in Sagittarius at 14 degrees Sagittarius on the 3rd of June. So we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, and I think it's time to wrap up today's transmission and this Starseed ministry. So, my friends, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so very much. If you have any questions, concerns, you can always email me. It's in the description box below. And I just appreciate all of you so very much. Remember, if you're interested in any of the Starseed readings at a discount, the Beginner Starseed package, and certainly if you're interested in the Solstice seasonal forecast looking at June to September, those options are available to book directly from the links in the description box. I made it very easy for you. You can pay directly through my website and get booked, and we can go from there. So, have a great week, everyone. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your patience very much as I get back into the swing of all of my content creation and my practice in general. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye.